I said to Stephen A., I said on camera, in a lot of ways, like, black guys and I, whether or not people don't believe this, but hit it off because the way we grew up and the culture that we had is similar. I'm painting with a broad brush. Not everybody does. But, like, you know, the debate world, the idea that I can say something to you in disagreement and it's not mean or it doesn't mean I don't like you, like, especially around the world of sports, like, I just never felt like that was a thing. Like, so what if I said you're wrong? Like, now we're not good? I never even thought about that. And a lot of the black guys at ESPN were operating on the same wavelength. Stephen A., he never took it personally when I said these things.
Well, of course he didn't, Will Cain, because y'all align on Sage Steele Show. The Fox News host made quite a revelation.
One time the management told me this. They said, we did a focus group. Black people hate you. And I said, no, they don't. And I said, I meet them all the time. They love me. They love me. And they go, and I remember this guy telling me, black people are polite. They're not going to tell you to your face.
The smugness of this guy is truly a sight to behold. Let's not forget this man's character and what he says.
But when you hear the people at a NASCAR infield say a certain thing, all I'm here to tell you is this. Those human beings as individuals can mean what they say as well. And that is the Confederate flag means something beyond, perhaps completely apart from, racism or its racist history.
He defended the Confederate flag and believes it is not racist.
He just mentioned that his favorite Christmas song was White Christmas. I hate to break it to him, but if you're dreaming of a white Christmas, you might be a racist. Of course, I'm talking about snow, but America can't escape the framework of skin color. Because instead of spreading cheer and joy this holiday season, Black Lives Matter is asking its followers to participate in segregation. They call their mission Black Xmas, and its goal is pretty simple. Fight, quote, white supremacist capitalism. Now you're probably wondering, what is white supremacist capitalism? And that also is simple. It's any business owned by a white person.
He states falsehoods about white supremacy.
For me, it was a mass appeal. Full-on Trump rally for the halftime show. Morgan Wallen or Zach Bryan plays us 2 or 3 songs. Trump comes out with an executive desk, signs 5 executive orders, and Shane Gillis takes us out with a 5-minute set. Best halftime show ever.
Is a big fan of Morgan Wallen, a prolific N-word user.
Zohran Mamdani is a man that talks about race. He talks about taxing white people and taxing white neighborhoods. He's openly socialist and obviously communist. And in that way, he represents something bigger than just the threat to public safety. He represents a threat to Western civilization. This is the fight of our lifetime, and it's something that spans the continent, spans the globe, from Germany and France to the UK, and finally to the Alamo, the United States of America.
Shows his bigotry over New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani.
Let's follow up on a story that we brought you yesterday, the rise in youth violence across America. We brought you these jaw-dropping stats showing juvenile offenders and crimes against other people surging over the last 5 years. Now, we use a lot of euphemisms in pleasant conversation and in the media. Those euphemisms often hide the truth. We refer to inner city when talking about minorities. And juvenile crime is the problem, but the question is, how much is race a part of the problem in juvenile crime?
In the media, in society, we have to be calm enough, rational enough to say, could it be true? Could it be false? Could it be a misunderstanding? And we didn't. And because of that, Molly, we undercut everything. We undercut our credibility. And also, I believe we undercut improvement in racial relations. I really believe that.
As we speak, President Trump is at dinner in the Netherlands, imploring once again for peace in Ukraine, driving NATO nations to raise their defense spending budgets to meet the minimum threshold, to provide for their own defense. And this after an incredible 24 hours wherein, despite doubts, despite 2 nations hell-bent on war, he once again brought peace to the Middle East. It is not pom-pom waiting nor cheerleading. It is not partisan at this point to say, is this presidency not one that puts itself in company of those who've had their faces carved into mountains? At this point, is the presidency of Donald Trump on the level of Mount Rushmore.
Glazes the president at every turn, and much more.
Human beings, I think we've had this conversation before, Bomani, have trouble seeing each other as individuals.
If I were to ask you in 1865, what is the greatest impediment to race relations in America, what would you have said? Would you have said the whole thing about tribalism and everything else?
No.
But the issue is really the impediment to racism is white people not treating black people as being of equal levels of humanity. You can't tell people not to overreact when you see what you think is a noose, and then justify people overreacting on the back end to the idea that it did not go the way it appeared to have. I feel like in the way that you are approaching this, you are legitimize what is actually going on in so many people's lives, what we see everywhere, and what we saw before the race. So, like, if we got a real problem with something, NASCAR allowing that flag to be what it was for so long is a much bigger problem than them mishandling this. I don't get the feeling that you was charged up about that.
I am not the one undercutting the idea of people's ability to accept that racism takes place or individual instances. False claims like this undercut that. That is what empowers those who think that things are hoaxes. I believe there are terrible people in this world. There are racist people in this world. But I believe that human beings out there that can be won over, that are truly persuadable people. But, and this gets to my outrage now, but if you undercut the truth consistently, you lose those persuadable people.
And if those people can be dissuaded that easily by that one mistake, they're not nearly as persuadable as you're giving them credit for being. I do think, though, the truth in this is very important. I think there's something to it. What gets frustrating often, like in hearing you talk about this, is somehow you be the only one that's speaking the truth, right? Like, you're the only dude that's, everybody else is falling for it, right? Everybody else is out here on some okey doke when it comes to this, but you, seeker of truth in this matter.
So is it surprising, Will, that black folks would hate you? Nah. Nah, man. No, it's not surprising. I think during that time and consistently throughout, black folks have hated you. I think minorities have hated you. I think you're hateable because those are the repercussions for your actions. I remember pre-Antonio Brown being who we know AB is as of today, because he held out on a contract dispute with the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is many, many, many years ago. This is pre-Vontaze Burfict, which a lot of people like to point towards for Antonio Brown potentially having CTE, which was a brutal, brutal hit if you want to YouTube it. He called Antonio Brown a domestic terrorist for holding out on a contract. That is insane. Insane. But is it surprising? Considering this is the man who would get down on his knees for Trump. No, not in the slightest. And he'd probably forgive Antonio Brown because Antonio Brown is a Trump supporter. I cannot fathom why ESPN platformed this guy. They truly gave in to the dumbest people on planet Earth. They gave in to Clay Travis, who is now Will Cain's co-worker and who pivoted right because he saw the money. According to Dave Portnoy, he's a Obama voter 2 times. Wrote in an op-ed that he doesn't believe Trump is racist. He would never endorse a racist. He endorsed Trump. Pivoted his media company, Outkick the Coverage, to go even further right, and then sold it to Rupert Murdoch for boatloads of money. ESPN gave in to the Clay Travises of the world who are saying they're way too left-leaning, and now look at where they are. Stephen A. Smith has practically come out as a Trump supporter. He is a Republican. They had Will Cain on. Pat McAfee, Mr. I don't like my politics and sports, hosts the president. I mean, Jamil Hill was right. It's not left-leaning. It's way more conservative than y'all think. But for Will Cain to say, I talk to black people, they like me. Man, if you could be more obtuse, Incredible stuff.